Hola, I want to review the preterite and the imperfect tense with you in Spanish. You have probably learned these individually, but they actually occur together in the language, and they both together make up the past tense. So for the preterite, you have to think of this as actions that occur in time, that have a specific time or beginning or end. Or when we narrate and we say this happened, then that happened, and that happened, that's what we call a series of events. So for example, if I were to say completed actions, if I were to say Pablo salió de la casa, he left, it's done. Okay? This is very different to the imperfect, where the imperfect allows for an unset time period or unset repetition that is conveyed with the use of the imperfect. If I were to say in the imperfect, Pablo salía de la casa, then it means we don't know when he started to leave, when he actually left. It's something that occurred in the past. Okay? If I were to say something else such as Sara esperaba a su madre, again, we don't know how long she waited. We don't know when she started and stopped waiting. It just happened in the past for an extended time period without care to containing that action. That'll use the imperfect. Now, when we begin an action or we end an action, that'll use the preterite. Again, because it's specific times that we're talking about with the preterite. For example, if I were to say, la clase comenzó a las 3 de la tarde. Again, we're specifying when an action begins or when an action ends. This is different to expressing habitual actions, actions that happen more than once, right? As if I were to say, de niña, Perla caminaba a su casa todos los días. So we are expressing here that this action occurs repeatedly. As a child, she would walk to her house every day, specifying not once, not twice, but an unnamed amount of times. The preterite, again, is going to be used to express series of events. If I were to say, Diego se levantó, se lavó los dientes y se fue a la escuela. You can see the series there. First thing happened, second thing happened, third thing happened, all of these actions. So again, that'll use the preterite. Versus the imperfect is going to give us the background information. Things that aren't actions, but actually descriptions from the past tense. So if I were to say, era un día soleado y los niños estaban contentos. Pedro tenía 8 años y era muy travieso. Notice in all of these, I am describing the environment. That's not an action, it's a description. I am describing the children. It's not an action that they are happy. It's just their state of being. I am giving Pedro's age. Again, that's just description. And I am talking about his personality, saying that he was a rambunctious child. None of that is going to use a preterite. Those aren't actions, they're descriptions. So hopefully this helps clarify. Preterite are for specific actions that occur at a specific or determined time. And the imperfect are for actions that occurred more than once, habitually, recurrent, or to when we do not care when something occurred in the past, or when we want to give background information. Now, here's where it also gets trickier. There will be situations in which we use both preterite and imperfect in the same sentence. When we are expressing an action that is in progress, that becomes interrupted by another action, we are going to use the interrupted action in the preterite and the habitual action in the imperfect. So if I were to say, Luis corría por su casa cuando se cayó. So he was running in his house. That is an action that is in progress. You can imagine that he is running as an action in progress. It's using the imperfect. And the action of running is interrupted by what? By him falling. So that interrupting action is going to be in the preterite se cayó. And those will be the uses for preterite and imperfect, and the uses of when we use preterite and imperfect in the same sentence. I hope this helps clarify some of these uses.